In fantasy baseball, it's hard to point to one player and say, yeah, I won my league because of him. Although last year, Ronald Acuna Jr. pretty much flipped that theory on its head. But if you get the right breakout player at the right price on draft day, and what if you have 2 or maybe 3 of those guys on your same team because you identified them before the competition? That can help you win your league. So here's 6 of those hitters who could be league-winning picks this year. My number 1 pick is going to be a former number 1 pick, and I think a lot of other people feel like Royce Lewis could be that guy this year. All it took was him finally to be somewhat healthy, and look what happened. Last year, in just the second half of the season, 309, 15 home runs, 52 RBIs, and threw in 6 steals as well. That was in just 58 games. Now, if you're going to point to a potential concern, besides his injury history, of course, is the BABIP was 354, very high. And some people feel like regression is going to come because that tends to happen when the BABIP is significantly higher than the batting average. But it doesn't always happen. Plus, when you have a player who has excellent speed, like Royce Lewis, the BABIP can get away with being a little bit higher because they can leg out some of those grounders. And some players are just better at finding those holes when they hit it on the ground. Now, I don't necessarily expect him to hit over 300, but he's fully capable of getting close to that. But again, the power, the speed, hitting in the heart of the order, the talent is there, and he plays a premium position of third base. And I talk about him quite a bit on my third base rankings videos too, and I've talked about him a lot all this offseason. I'm going to keep talking about it. Now, the thing is, you're going to have to pay to get this breakout. He isn't going late. A lot of people see the talent, see the opportunity, so you just have to be willing to take the plunge around pick 50. I'm willing to do it. Last year, the hype was all about Jordan Walker for the Cardinals because he was going to make the opening day roster. He was mashing in the minors the year before. So much talent there. And it looked like a great pick when he got off to a 12-game hit streak. And then reality set in. Not long, he's back in the minors. The Cardinals struggle. Walker kind of cobbles together a decent second half. But still, it's like the thrill is gone here. Nobody's on Walker really anymore. Why? Are we really going to say we've seen enough of a player who's only 21 years old still, has all of 1 season in the majors, and showed he still has a great feel for hitting, amazing raw power, and everything is still there for him. It's just, we get some of this prospect fatigue, the post-hype sleeper effect. It is real here with Jordan Walker. Everything that made us excited about him last year, it's still there, and now he's got some more experience under his belt. So, yeah, I'm taking a chance on him for sure. It's hard to believe that you can actually get him cheaper this year than you could last year. I legitimately believe Walker has 40 home run upside this season, and the batting average won't sink you either. He's not an all-out slugger. He hit 276, and he only struck out 22.4% of the time. The plate discipline is not an issue here. And did I mention 80 grade raw power? This guy has all the tools to succeed. He can still do it. I'm all in on Jordan Walker this year. I might possibly be even more in on Riley Green, the Detroit Tigers. Remember, also one of the top hitting prospects in all of baseball. He's got great balance in terms of both hit tool and power. Not a lot of speed, but still he'll swap a few bags. But this is a player who can definitely help you in batting average. And he's going to be hitting near the top of that order, actually probably more like third in the order for that Tigers lineup, where Torkelson behind him is going to drive in a ton of runs, and some also intriguing players like Parker Meadows, Kerry Carpenter hitting their top of that lineup. I really like the young core of this Tigers lineup, which I've also talked a lot about this offseason. Now with Green, also the issue here is just health. Had an elbow injury last year, disrupted his season just when he was off to a good start, and he's been working through it in the offseason. It looks like he's back to throwing, catching, hitting, everything in full. As of January, he was already doing all that. Don't think there'll be any limitations to him, so sky's the limit. All of his X stats from last year were way above league average, including 92nd percentile in terms of expected batting average. Kind of a natural feel to hit the ball, hit 288, and he's also got some power, as I mentioned. Everything is there in place. I'm really high in Green. He's going at a great discount, so I feel like he's someone you could grab as your third outfielder, set and forget the rest of the season. Now, grabbing those players at premium positions is also a huge advantage. Catcher, definitely one. How do you find great offensive, production from a player whoever else doesn't already know about, and you have to draft really early? We all know about the Will Smiths and the Real Mutos, but what if I can draft a guy much, much later who could break out? I'm going to look for Luis Campusano in San Diego. Even though he made his major league debut back in 2020, he's still only 25 years old. He's been up and down, back and forth, but really just as depth. He hasn't had a clear path to have the everyday job at catcher until now. He finally does. Not sure what took so long, but this is one of the young offensive-minded catchers who has the greatest upside at this position. Only other player on the roster that's going to share time with him is Kyle Higashioka, who came over from the Yankees in a trade December. He'll be there. He's just a veteran backup. He's a glove-first player. He'll play here and there. Campusano won't be necessarily every day, but he's going to be there the majority of the time. Relative to most other catchers, totally fine in terms of projecting him to be top 10 as far as at-bats and plate appearances and counting stats. He has plus power, and we saw him hit for average last year in his time in the majors, hit .315. He only has all of 248 at-bats of major league experience. So he's another player who almost feels like it's not even post-hype fatigue. It's almost just, we're fatigue or waiting for him to finally do something. But it's not his fault because he hasn't been given a chance until now. How about another catcher who's also really an outfielder, Henry Davis of the Pittsburgh Pirates? This is somebody who also got a lot of hype last year, one of their best prospects, and kind of didn't really live up to the hype. He showed flashes. He showed some of this power he has. This is a catching prospect with double plus raw power. And we saw him go deep several times, but he struggled with plate discipline. The average wasn't very good, hit .213 last year and struck out way too much. But I'm not too worried about that because that's not the kind of hitter he really is. All throughout the minors, had excellent plate discipline, almost as many walks as strikeouts. So last year was just a case of him being a rookie, being young, pressing to make something happen. I think he'll get back to cutting down on the strikeout rate. It was 27% last year. I expect that to go down, and he still did walk quite a bit at 10%. He's a natural hitter, and I think we'll see that step forward this year. Now, playing in Pittsburgh is not a benefit. No, it definitely isn't. But if he can help you out with average and with power, I think he'll be just fine. Now, he is probably going to play a lot of outfielder. He's really more the backup catcher in Pittsburgh, but he's still going to play some catcher. He's still listed as a catcher. Most importantly, in fantasy, he's eligible at catcher. So I don't really care if he DHs or does whatever. I don't care how much he actually is behind the plate. You can slot him at catcher. You have a player with 30-plus home run upside. That's definitely valuable to have, and you can get him super late on draft day. And then if you've watched pretty much any of the videos I put out this offseason so far, I'm in on Tristan Casas. He's one of my favorite picks. And I'm going to say he could be a league-winning pick because at first base, you might take the plunge early on one of these players because you feel like the home run upside is great. Well, Tristan Casas can get you about 30-plus home runs, but he can also help you out with batting average, probably more so than any of the other first basemen that you have. Honestly, I know that sounds crazy, but outside of Freddie Freeman, he's going to be the top first baseman, and then maybe a guy like Vlad, who there are questions about him and what his batting average will look like. I'm in on Vlad, but even so, I don't feel like there's a first baseman who will hit for average better than Tristan Casas, and he's still giving you that power. Remember, his average last year was a liability. He didn't even get over the 200 mark until June 13th because guess what? He is a young player. He was pressing. All of these things were so easy to give up on these young players after things don't click on day one. Well, Casas turned it around big time after the All-Star break. In the second half, he hit .319, but he also posted a 13.7% walk rate. He's got patience. He's just a natural hitter, and he does have enough power where he's not just going to help you in average. He will help you across the board, minus the steals. Those are some of the hitters with the biggest upside in all of fantasy baseball. But I got some more players in mind who are also kind of post-hype sleepers. Get a little deeper, but looking at some players who really could break out, and they've been completely overlooked so far. You can check that out right here.